All right, Leggies. I think we can get started here. I hope you're all having a fantastic weekend so far. I will start off very quickly going over some of the settings for the MDX ALGO indicators. If anyone has any questions about the indicators or just questions in general, as always, I'll do my best to answer them. No promises. These updates are still quite new for me as well. I've been playing around with them quite a bit and I really enjoy them. I've been having a great time with some of these updates. But yeah, I might not necessarily have all the answers, so bear with me. But after that, we'll be taking a look at a few different charts and that sort of thing, just doing a little bit of analysis. Maybe we'll even find some trade setups here, who knows. If you don't have a mic, but you are in the private Discord here, you should be able to type in the chat box in the Indicators Live voice group. So keep that in mind as well. I tend to kind of forget that that is open at times. So if I take a while to get to your questions, just bear with me there. But yeah, other than that, guys, I think we can get started. We have a few people in here now. So yeah, obviously, I know I've gone over this before, taking a quick look at the MDX ALGO indicators. I just absolutely love everything about it, like even just the color scheme of this. I just think it's such a beautiful indicator, well, indicators, visually and just some of the features, some very cool stuff to go over. The first thing I want to mention is I know some people have had some visual issues. Just make sure that you have everything set to bring to front. So if I right click on any of these signals, I can go to visual order. Make sure this is bring to front, because if you send it back, sometimes the colors just get a little wonky and that kind of thing. So if you bring to front, it should keep everything nice and clean and crisp. So if you are having any visual issues, make sure that's the first thing you check. Other than that, to get into the settings, we can either right click on any of these signals and go to settings, or just double click them. And that brings up a whole bunch of features here for these indicators. In my previous stream, I kind of went more in depth on all of this. I'll just do a very quick run through here. But basically, if you are on regular candles like me, make sure you don't have the Heiken Ashi box checked. If you use Heiken Ashi candles, obviously you can check that. Next, we have scalp and swing options. So that will just kind of just change the signals a little bit. If you go to swing, you're not going to get as many of these long and short calls. It's going to be a little more picky on that end. Candle color, again, I really like the look of this, but you can change to a whole bunch of different colors here. Well, not a whole bunch, but a few different colors, just personal preference there. My favorite thing about these indicator updates has been this trend confluence, and this is this moving average here, this green and red moving average. So this is a 5-minute chart right now. I just have it on the 5-minute for now. This indicator, however, gives us the option to show trends of different time frames. Very powerful stuff, because I know I've mentioned in many of my videos, for those of you guys who have been subscribed to my channel or following along at all, I don't mind playing these degenerate time frames, looking for scalps on 5 minutes or 3-minute, 1-minute charts. Even 15's a little bit degenerate, but I really don't mind trading on those shorter time frames as long as I have a general view of the overall market. I know what's going on the daily chart, the weekly, the 4-hour chart, that kind of stuff. And that's where this can be quite powerful. Obviously, I'm not actually trading daily patterns or weekly patterns. It's more just to get an overall view of the market, and then zooming into these shorter time frames to get a better idea of more pinpoint accurate entry, especially when you're trading with leverage and that kind of thing. So very cool. I personally like to have the 1-hour trend confluence, just because it's kind of the first time frame that I'm going to take a little serious. It actually carries a little bit of weight on the hourly. So it's very cool that we can see how the trend is moving on the hourly chart while on a different time frame. Very cool stuff. And now we can actually add more than one. You can have a second one in here. There's a whole bunch of different types of moving averages you can choose from. I'm personally on the TMA. I don't really have a preference. That's just what I've been using recently. People in the Discord were talking about using these settings. MDX was talking about using these settings. So that's just kind of what I've gone with. But if you have a specific trade style that you use a different type of moving average, you can select whatever you want. You can customize the numbers, just how many candles it's going to take from, that sort of stuff. So Very cool. I personally only have one active right now. I don't like to clutter up my charts too much. To be completely honest, usually I don't even have a whole bunch of these signals on, but just for demonstrational purposes, obviously, I want to show you everything here. But signals, that'll give you your long and short calls. Market flow I'm going to turn on here. This will give us another moving average looking type of line. It'll be a lot fainter. Should show up in a few seconds. The indicators load times are currently a little bit slow. Just work with us right now. I know the team is actively working on the speed and efficiency of these indicators, so that should speed up over time. But yeah, this market flow, this is just this faint gray line here that's kind of showing us the momentum of the order books. Can be used as another confluence of support and resistance. Next we have take profits. That's obviously the TP with the orange dot here. You can see that it's very accurate quite often. And just one thing to remember is one of the hardest things when you're learning to trade is actually taking profits. If you're in a winning position, you feel like the smartest person in the world, you really want to hang on to that. You get greedy, you want to get the maximum profit, but usually that's not going to work out. If you're constantly looking for home run trades, it's important to actually take profits when you're in trades, especially if you're trading on these shorter time frames like the 5-minute, 15-minute, whatever you're trading on. Just this indicator really helps to emphasize that, hey, remember to take profits if you're in them. It's good to, for one, make profits, but for two, just removing or reducing that risk from the markets, because these markets are risky. That's all there is to it. Crypto is very volatile. We're no stranger to that. But yeah, it's just nice to have that reminder once in a while to take profits. Trend exhaustion. These are the yellow dots without a TP on them, just showing that there's a lack of follow through or just the follow through is running out in the markets. Stoch RSI divergences, that's these little blue dots. So obviously if it's below the price, that's bullish divergence. And if it was above the price up here, for example, that would be a bearish divergence. These indicators, regular and hidden divergences here, that would be these pointy little square triangle things here, these little house-shaped symbols here. They can be quite accurate at just kind of pointing out a little bit of a reversal. I really like having those indicators on. Another thing I want to bring up here, a few things that I don't have up right now would be this probability calculator. This is very neat. I personally don't use it a whole bunch, but it'll actually give you the probabilities of kind of which way the next candle is heading, or the current candle, I suppose. Just gives you the probability of these targets of the candle actually reaching these levels. I mean, obviously some of these targets have a very low probability, but I mean, that's a pretty big move for one candle, obviously. Well, it's been quite accurate guessing the direction. Obviously, yeah, here has a 64% chance of going up, 28% chance going down. And these targets are all 1% away from each other. And you can adjust that here with your step percent. If you want them to be closer together, for example, you should be able to adjust them like so. Again, it'll take a few minutes or a few seconds to adjust here. I've never tried doing a decimal point yet, but we'll just see if things move a little bit. Yeah, so that brings our targets much closer together, so that'll only be, it should be about a 0.2% move. Yeah, something like that. So yeah, that's how you can adjust the probabilities, how far your targets are on this candle, kind of a thing. I'm going to remove this just because it clutters the screen a little bit. I don't want all those numbers just on my chart here personally. But that's how that works. Very cool feature. Another thing I want to bring up here would be the trade setup here. Just give this a few seconds to show up. This is quite interesting. So this will actually show you potential setups. It shows you where this indicator would be taking an entry, where its stop losses would be, where its take profits would be, and that kind of thing. So you can see right now with the 1 hour trend confluence on the 5-minute chart here, it would have actually entered. You can see that the blue dots go right to this level. This is where it was saying to take a short. Stop loss is above the 1 hour trend confluence here. I personally don't always follow this. I mean, it's actually been quite impressive. I've seen this thing nail a lot of trades. I quite often like to have my stop loss a little looser. This one doesn't look so bad, but the targets are also quite a ways away. Just very cool that this indicator can give this type of a trade setup and actually be quite accurate very often. You can adjust things with this part of the indicator as well. If you raise your risk tolerance here, that will actually make all your targets a little further. It'll make your stop loss a little further away. Here I can just adjust this. We'll go from a 2 to a 5 just so it's very noticeable what changes here. But yeah, that's basically you're going to be willing to take a bigger loss, so your stop loss is going to be further away, and your targets are going to be further away because you're going to be looking for more reward for that extra risk, right? So that's kind of how that works. This number here, this 15, that will just adjust where these, I guess, this information is. If I raise this to 30, for example, it would just push these words over to the side here. But just since it's taking a little bit of loading time and stuff, I'm not even going to worry about doing that. It's not that important. It's all just personal visual preference there. I'm going to remove that now just to clear things up a little bit. Next, what I want to do is I want to show you these support and resistance lines. So this indicator can actually map out, it'll show up in blue lines here. I'm actually going to just remove a few things here just to clean things up as well. But yeah, this is a very cool feature as well. If you're new to trading, or you're looking at the markets incorrectly, or you've taken a vacation from looking at charts and you just kind of want a second opinion, or you don't quite understand support resistance flips and that kind of thing, this indicator can actually map out some fairly important horizontal levels for you, just levels that it figures will be important levels for the market, where you might see pivots happen. If you break through that level, it might end up flipping, let's say, from resistance to support, or vice versa. But yeah, very cool feature, because I know a lot of people in this group are fairly new to trading and might not have a good grasp of mapping out horizontal levels, and this indicator can just help with that a little bit. So very cool. There's so many customizations that you can do with these indicators, so many different things just to suit your own trading style. Something very important, guys, that I want to outline here is these are still just indicators. I mean, these MDX indicators are easily my favorite indicators. I've been using them for a few months now. And with the recent updates, they just keep getting better. So I really like them, but always remember they are just indicators. You want them to match up with your own technical analysis, just like any other indicator out there, you guys. It's always used as confluence to your own analysis. Don't just blindly take every signal that you see. You gotta, again, we're just playing our probabilities. It's a lot like poker. There's no trade setup that's ever going to be 100% correct, or 100% guaranteed, rather. So it's important we're just kind of weighing out our probabilities here. It's great when you can start seeing several indicators lining up together. Like right now we see the oscillator 4 calling for a potential bullish pivot. The oscillator 5 is also matching up with that. The indicator 3 is saying, or the Algo 3 is actually saying short, so it's not all aligning right now as far as these three indicators with my current settings anyways. But yeah, it's just very cool how well these tools can work together when you really just add them to your own charting, your own confluence, that sort of thing. So I always just want to bring that up. Just again, I never take random calls from anybody. I mean, there's traders out there who are far better than myself, who, even if they give me their trade setup, I most likely won't randomly take it without doing my own analysis first, because I think it's just a dangerous game to just blindly take other people's word for things. And indicators are the same. I'm not going to blindly take a random call unless I agree with what that call is saying. And that's quite often why I actually keep the long and short signals off when I'm first analyzing things, is I like to do my own analysis before bringing up some of these signals and then trying to get that confluence. If, let's say right now I'm looking at things bullishly, for example, I would start flipping on it, these features on the indicators and see if things kind of line up with what I'm looking at. That's how I like to look at it. So you can see that I usually keep my indicators pretty bare bones here. I don't like to clutter up my charts. I like to have them nice and clean looking. So yeah, I like to bring up those features after I've already done my own analysis. So that's about all of the features on the Algo 3, I believe. I hope I didn't miss anything here. Oh, the dashboard here, that would be our last thing. That'll bring up a little data sheet up here in our top right corner in a few seconds here. So this also does a good job, much like that trend confluence. It just gives us an easy way to kind of see what the trend is on different time frames without just flip-flopping between a bunch of charts over and over all day. You can see that, yeah, it'll give us a different reading for the 4-hour, the daily, the weekly, that sort of thing. So that'll stay up even though we're on a 5-minute chart. So that's very cool. This win rate, loss rate, you can see that's the H1, H2, H3, that sort of stuff. That is giving us the win and loss rate of the probability calculator. I'm just going to change that back to its default of 1% between targets. But when those numbers come up, I know I've already gone over these, but that's what this refers to. So this isn't actually the that trade feature that shows you the stop loss, the entry, the targets hit, anything like that. That's not what this is. This is basically going for the first target. For example, right now it's calling that this next candle will go down. So that's the win-loss rate of that kind of a thing. And obviously the first target is usually very close because it's basically just taking the range of the previous candle and just saying which way it thinks the next candle is going to go. So it's a very close target. So especially if you're on shorter time frames, I mean, the fees might not even pay for themselves if you're in a leverage position, a high leverage position, just playing this type of a setup. That's a very small move, obviously, but yeah, still very cool that it keeps track of its wins and losses and that sort of thing. Very cool features with this. I'm very impressed with all the updates to these indicators. Just going to go over the Oscillator 5 next. This is probably my favorite indicator, to be honest. So I've always been a fan of using the RSI. That's basically the only other indicator I've used in the past, a whole lot anyways, constantly been using it. I've used it basically since I started trading, and I still look at it all the time. And this Oscillator 5 just reminds me a lot of the RSI, except just a RSI on steroids. It's just a beefed up version because it obviously emphasizes the bullish and bearish divergences when it believes we're oversold, overbought, that kind of thing. So obviously here we have a bunch of R's, we have H's. So the R's, a green R would be a bullish regular divergence. A blue H would be a hidden bullish divergence. Red R would be regular bearish divergence, and a red H would be bearish hidden divergence. And then usually it'll also map out where they are kind of referring to. Just outlines these little lines here. So this indicator does a great job of really making things very noticeable. I don't believe it started right when I loaded it. I don't think it had the hidden bullish and hidden bearish divergences. I think that's really the only thing I changed when I really started getting into the settings of these indicators. So I did add those. I haven't really fooled around with this kind of stuff too much. I usually only kind of stick to the main inputs of these indicators. I don't fool around with too much else. Oh, we're getting a nice little pump here. Obviously just the 5-minute, but yeah, so if you want to kind of clean up how this looks a little bit, you can do the oscillator smooth. That'll just kind of change how it looks a little bit. But again, that's just personal preference. The oscillator 4 up top here. Very cool indicator as well. Very similar. Obviously, we have our bullish divergences, we have our bearish divergences. As well, we have these orange dots and yellow diamonds. Those are just kind of warning signals, pivot points, trend exhaustion, whatever you want to call them there. But that's kind of what that's pointing out. And also has the built-in bands here. So that's pretty cool. I personally haven't really used much for Bollinger Bands and that kind of thing in my analysis previously. But very cool. Obviously, it can show when price is coiling up, getting ready for a move. And just when we're getting kind of close to support, resistance, that sort of thing. So yeah, very cool. I'm just going to go through, see if we have any questions in the chat here yet. Why am I recommending the TMA on the trend line when EMA is more suited to crypto? So that would be on the Algo 3 again. Honestly, I just went to TMA with 10 on the 1 hour because I saw MDX was talking about using that. I saw some other good traders in the group who were talking about using those settings. I haven't done much back testing with these signals matching up with the trend confluences. But I know that I've seen a few traders in the group talking about that and having good success rates with this setting. And that's really the only reason that I've been watching it lately. I haven't done much back testing on different kinds of moving averages or anything. That's all kind of personal preference. And again, one of those reasons why it is important, I guess, to do your own back testing. Like if you have a certain moving average that you find works better for the way you look at charts and that kind of thing, then you can adjust accordingly. That's just the setup I've been using. I don't have a personal preference, a strong personal preference one way or the other. What are the candle colors represent? The purple ones, for example. The candles changing color would just be, I guess, a shift in momentum. So here, obviously, we had some strong selling pressure. Our candles were red, and the selling pressure is easing off a little bit. So we are seeing the candles starting to shift colors. Just like up here, you know, when we were just blasting off here, we were a bright green. And as soon as we started to cool off, we started to lose that buying pressure. So it's just changing a little bit. That's all. It's nothing too significant. I honestly think it's more just to make it look cool. But yeah, it's just a bit of a shift in momentum when you're seeing the colors changing. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, any other questions about these indicators? I know I just went over everything kind of quickly. Like I said, I do have a previous video where I slowed it down a little bit talking about these. Again, if you are new to my streams or anything, do me a favor and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Usually my videos on the YouTube channel are significantly shorter. These live streams can run about an hour, usually hour and a half. Usually on my channel, I'm posting videos that are more analysis based, that are just like a 5, 10, 15 minute update, that kind of thing. So they're a little quicker to the point. And sometimes when I don't have time to make a video, if something's happening in the markets and I still want to, I guess, give my 2 cents on the situation, sometimes I will post analysis on my Twitter as well. So StuTube Trading, all one word, follow me there if you wish. But yeah, I'm more active, I guess, on my YouTube channel, and that again is StuTube Trading, all one word. Just gonna give a few minutes here to see if anyone has any other questions, and if not, I'm gonna just kind of freestyle analysis a little bit on some Bitcoin charts. I'll take a look at the S&P 500, the DXY, to take a look at the strength of the US dollar and that sort of stuff in a little bit here. The overbought, oversold indicators are basically the cross points on the RSI for the KD settings. I've looked for alerts on the MDX and they are not available. I usually set RSI alerts for 20 or 80%. How does one alert these? Would that be on, let's say, the oscillator 4, for example, then? I've never actually set alerts on these indicators yet, but just, yeah, if we right click on one of the symbols, add alert, that will give us a list of things we are able to add alerts to. Or the 5. Here, let's just check what the 5 has to say. Again, add alert on MDX oscillator 5. And then we can just see, oh yeah, there's a whole bunch of alerts we can set here. OSC, I'm not sure what the OSC refers to. OSC, crossover, cross under. I guess that would just be the oscillator, I assume, crossing over this this fainter little bit of color in the middle here that we can see. I'm guessing that's what that's referring to. But yeah, these would be, if you're looking for overbought, oversold. Here, let me just go back into the settings here. So overbought, oversold, I believe that's these little boxes that show up, if I'm not mistaken. Let's just remove them and see what happens here. Give it a few seconds again. It's either taken a while or I missed what changed there. Let's overbought, oversold area. Okay, so that was these little squares here. And overbought, oversold zone. And that would be like the full rectangles, the full areas, I guess. Yeah, as far as the alerts go, what would that be under? It's mostly the divergences that come up for these indicators. Yeah, I haven't really played around with these too much. That's what I was also wanting to know. Is there a way to get an outline of that all of the alerts are? That's actually a very good suggestion. Just because, like I said, I haven't really gone through the alerts of this, and it would take a long time to set them and wait for it to happen and find out what's triggering these alerts. I'm going to bring it up with the team just as a little bit of feedback, because I think that's a great idea, that we should have some kind of a legend or even a tutorial video that shows exactly what every one of these alerts does, because it's not super clear. So yeah, sorry, I can't really give you for sure information about that. I don't want to give you the wrong information as to what each of these alerts does. If I were to guess, the oscillator bearish would be same to crossing under, and I feel like it would be when things are changing, just going below kind of this middle area, but I could be wrong. I'm going to bring that up with MDX and the rest of the team and just see if that's something that's in the near horizon or not. I really like that idea of just getting some sort of like I said, a legend or a tutorial video that shows exactly what every single alert does, because it's not super clear. Overbought are the red main dots on top. Oversold are the main green dots on bottom. Squares are the trend deviations. So, yeah. Yeah, I'm going to bring that up. After this video, I will shoot the boys a message here and see if we can come up with anything that would give us a little clarification on the alerts. I like that idea. See a couple people typing here, so I'm just gonna wait a minute, and then we might get into a little bit of random freestyle Bitcoin analysis here. How has the MDX Automate performed during the sideways price action? Honestly, I haven't even been watching that. Let's bring it up here. Invite only, automation. Yeah, we've had sideways price action for a little bit. I am curious about that. That Automate is something that I haven't really watched. Do I have to go to the 1 hour here to see that? It's not coming up. Or am I not zoomed out far enough? Was it in... I am not seeing the Automate come up. Automation... That might be something that you'd actually have to check the MDX ALGO portal, like the website. I'm not sure, maybe you could see how it's been doing there, or if you can actually look on Bybit or BitGet, I believe are the two places where you can set up the trading bots through that. That might actually show you where it's been entering. But yeah, I know I've seen this before. I know I've looked at this indicator in the past, and I'm really, I don't know, it's not coming up. So I don't know if there's a glitch or if I have my settings wrong. Visibility, style. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure why that's not showing up. Must be a bit of an issue right now or something. I'll have to ask about that as well. Higher time frame, yeah, maybe we do need a 4 hour chart, daily chart. No, I'm not sure. Maybe it has to be on a certain chart. Maybe it has to be on Bybit, for example. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on there. Either way, we'll save that for another time, or I'll have to ask the team about that, why that's not showing anything. Oh, it is working on there. BTC USDT. Why isn't my Bybit showing up? Here we go. Here, I think this is the one we want. Go back to the hourly. Yeah, again, I'm not getting anything. That's weird. It must be something on my end, because it's not showing any sign of showing up on my charts here. So yeah, sorry about that, guys. I don't know what's going on my end here, but the Automate is not showing up. So that's something I'll have to look into after this stream, I suppose. Just going to change gears here, and feel free, if you have more questions, absolutely type them into the chat there or hop on the mic. Feel free. But while I wait, and we're just going to kind of move forwards here, going to do a little bit of my own analysis on Bitcoin, kind of see where I think things are at. Take a look at the S&P 500, the DXY, and all that sort of stuff here for a little bit. So the way I'm looking at Bitcoin right now is, you know, for those of you who have been following my channel and following my streams for more than a month now and stuff like that, I was actually, I'll fully admit, I was super bullish in this area for a whole bunch of reasons that I outlined in my Bitcoin cheat sheet video. I had a whole bunch of analysis lining up. We had a whole bunch of bullish divergences. Yes, I ended up getting in some nice positions on this little pump. Again, this is the daily chart, so this is actually a fairly significant move. But obviously it came crumbling down with the news of FTX and that whole debacle. So Yeah, we did end up getting that push to the downside. I wasn't really expecting it. How I am, however, not opposed to the idea of considering it a fake out at this point. I right now, honestly, I do not have a strong bias one way or the other. I trade shorter time frames anyways. But just a few things. All I can do is look at some probabilities, look at reasons why I think we'll dump and why I think that we could actually recover from these levels. And there is a reason why I have this massive green box here. One thing that I don't like is that we obviously dropped down. We swept our lows from back at June here. And we got many daily candle body closes below this level, even weekly. We got weekly candle closes below that level. That's obviously not good from a structural standpoint. However, one thing that I want to mention is if I go back to our 2017 market cycle all-time high, and I just make this big box kind of from the complete all-time high, the very all-time high, down to kind of where this candle bodies were closing down here. This on its own, I mean, yes, I think it's significant that it's an all-time high right here, but the fact that this box actually lines up with this little bit of consolidation we had on our parabolic bull run here, it actually, we do have this little bit of consolidation here. It was only about a month of trading at these levels. But something to consider is, we do still technically have this support here. I don't like to just base support off one candle, for example. The fact it lines up with these candle bodies back here, and it is on a weekly time frame, and it was pretty much one of two areas that we actually got consolidation in our massive bull market there. I'm willing to give this box a little bit of credit here. And it's interesting to see that we started closing these weekly doji candles right at that level. The fact that we're closing them above that box and not below, I have to at least consider the fact, especially that, again, this is a weekly time frame. Generally, weekly candles, I mean, they carry a lot of weight. There's a lot of information that moves in an entire week of trading. That's a lot of information in these candles, and the fact that we're actually finding support at those levels, I mean, it would screw with a lot of people, because let's face it, there's a whole bunch of people that think we're going to end up testing kind of that 14K level, which would make a lot of sense. I absolutely see the reason why we would retest this level. This was our first bear market rally, where I actually have something interesting I want to point out about this as well, just for moving forwards in this current market cycle. But I absolutely see reason why we would kind of come back down and test that level before recovering. As well, I know the 10K target has also been tossed around, and absolutely I see a lot of reason. We've flirted with this level. We, at the end of our bear market, or the end of our consolidation, whatever you want to call it, we did actually respect this quite well as resistance, and when we broke above it, we got a perfect resist to support flip. So I think this is a very important level in the market, just above 10K, kind of 10K to 10.5, somewhere in there. But I think that's a very important level. As well with the chart itself, that would actually bring us down towards that 85% full bear market reset, which a lot of you guys are probably well aware, especially if you've listened to my channel. But a lot of analysts talk about this, that bear markets for Bitcoin love to correct about 85%, and we haven't had that yet. So that is one big red flag on my radar, that we have only dropped about 77%. That being said, there's obviously a lot more money in the crypto markets this cycle. Every cycle has a lot more money, obviously, because things mature. Bigger players come into the space and that kind of thing. So that could slow down the volatility a little bit. And yes, it's possible we don't get that full 85% correction, but that would line up very nicely with that 10K region. But just to go back to, if we have bottomed out at this level, it would screw over a lot of people because, for one, we dropped these June lows, which I talked about, which blindsided a lot of people, including myself. So anyone who was thinking this was the bottom is now thinking we have to dump significantly further. And as well, there's a lot of people waiting for that 14K target. And I think to stop between the two and get a reversal from this level would just screw with so many people from every direction that I think it's absolutely a possibility. And again, it just lines up with this little bit of support back here, as well as this structure back here from our previous market cycle all-time high. So I have to at least consider the possibilities that we could end up recovering from this level. Is it probable? I'm not so sure. I mean, so far our bounce is looking a little weak, and once again, we just have several weekly candles now closing below this our June lows. So yeah, it's kind of a coin flip right now, honestly. I do not have a strong long-term bias right now. Or even midterm, I guess. I'm basically playing it swing by swing, trying to scalp what I can on shorter time frames, but I really don't have a strong opinion whether we're about to enter a bull market or we're about to correct much further down to 10K. I don't have a strong opinion on that. Another good thing going for the bulls here is we obviously have this macro downward sloping resistance line all the way back from our all-time high around 69K there. So to see that we broke above that trend line and came back, it's not too uncommon to see resistance flip into support. We never even quite came back to test that level, but to break above a resistance level and then see a pullback towards those levels to try and respect it as support, not all too uncommon. So to see this with or without the FTX news, I don't think it's all too crazy to see this type of price action, I guess. That being said, something else I want to talk about with that FTX situation is, what did this end up crashing the market? I mean, that was a huge market situation. That was just an absolutely massive bearish fundamental development to see such large companies. I mean, what are they? The second biggest crypto exchange next to Binance, I believe. To see them go belly up like that in the matter of a day or a couple days. I guess I'm sure if I was following the situation closer, I'm sure there was warning signs a lot earlier. But just to see how fast that whole situation played out and how devastating that could have been to the markets, to see that only crashed us about 23%. I mean, as far as Bitcoin goes, a 20% correction isn't out of the ordinary, especially when you consider the fact, I believe it was back here, and I know I've pointed this out on a previous stream. I think the last one I did. I believe it was right here when Elon Musk had tweeted that Tesla was no longer going to be accepting crypto payments. Look at what the market did from that level. I mean, yes, I absolutely think that there was technicals to go along with that sell-off there. But crazy to think how that type of a fundamental, just a car dealership, well, a car company no longer accepting Bitcoin as payment, to absolutely devastate the market and basically send us into free fall from there for about 60%. And then to have something where several billion-dollar crypto companies are totally going tits up and devastating the market and only correcting about 20% from there. I mean, the way I see it, this could have been a much more significant dump to the downside. So why aren't we dumping any further? I mean, it's probably because the trend is starting to get a little bit exhausted. It is absolutely possible we're just in some kind of consolidation now and we're going to bear flag down towards that 10K. Absolutely, it could happen. But just something worth considering there is that... well, and that's just one of those things, how I always say that I don't really follow the news, because I think there's ways that's just another thing that you can misinterpret. Because, I mean, when you're drawing trend lines, when you're mapping out charts and that kind of thing, it's very possible that you make mistakes, you look at things wrong. People don't consider that with fundamentals. If people hear news, they look at it in a way that it makes sense in their own head. And there's a chance they're looking at things wrong. I mean, at the start of COVID, when, yes, looking back, it makes sense. You know, the money printers turned on, had to artificially stimulate the economy and all that sort of stuff. It makes sense that Bitcoin went absolutely parabolic. But as that was happening, it was a very scary time. People didn't know if they would have jobs. People didn't know what the world was going to be like a year from then. and Bitcoin went on its most parabolic run ever, and that blindsided a lot of people. There was a lot of people waiting for a much more significant crash, and it never happened because they were looking at the fundamentals incorrectly. So that's just why I like to follow the charts and let the charts tell the story, because the media can spin any situation. No matter which way the market moves, they will be able to spin it in a way that it sounds like it makes sense in your head, but you never would have thought of it that way before the move happened. Stick a fixed range volume profile on the weekly, like indicators. I don't even know where to find that. I always keep my charts so clean. Fixed range volume profile. That's something I've never looked at. What am I looking at here? I always just look at the indicators. Where's the tools? Why am I dumb here? Why don't... You guys are gonna have to teach me, like, you're talking in here? And where would it be in here? Where are you looking?
Yeah, it's under the tools, Stu. That's it. Drop that down. Have a look.
Down?
Yeah, go into that tool, that drawing tool there that you were just in. Go up. Yeah, that one. Up one more. And it's down fixed volume. It's there somewhere.
Fixed volume.
Hang
Am I
on.
just missing it here?
Yeah, go down to the long and short tool. Try that one. It's under them, under one of them.
I am just having a mind fart here.
All right, try the next one down. Just keep trying the next one down. It's not the trend, not that one, not the brush, not the trend, not the text one. The next one down. Next one down, bud.
Here we go. Thank you. Thank you.
Perfect.
Yeah, I've never used this, so how does this work then? Let's hear. Yeah. What do you want to see with this? You
Just go from the top to the bottom, Stu.
okay?
From the top of the right, from the top of the. That's it.
Then right down to here, kinda.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a lot like the VPVR, hey?
It's for cheapskates who haven't got the paid version of Trading View.
Okay. Yeah. I see what you're looking at now. Oh yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, I've obviously haven't looked at this too much, but yeah, very cool how you can see that the bulk of the resistance it's pointing out right now lines up perfectly where with that FTX dump initiated, hey? That's obviously going to be a very powerful point of control. If we get up to that level, there might be some significant resistance at that level for sure.
Very handy for ranges, by the way, for structure. Use it on
Yeah,
a
no
little piece
kidding.
of structure.
I haven't tried this on a shorter time frame. Does it work
Yeah,
quite well?
yeah, like a charm.
Interesting. Let's just for my own curiosity here, I want to bring it up on a shorter time frame. Bring it up on the 5-minute here. Fixed
From the
rate.
bottom, from the
Oh
bottom to
yeah,
the top.
there we go.
No,
So probably something like this in that case then, hey?
and then you can right click the indicator and you can tell it to extend to the right.
Just visual order or
Settings. Go to the settings, Stu, at the bottom.
oh, settings and coordinates
Extend it to
probably.
the right. You can extend it to the right under inputs.
Oh.
Right at the bottom.
Oh, yeah. It's always hard
You
when
can
someone
change
else is looking at
You
something.
can, I mean, look at that. I mean, yeah, it's pretty cool, right? You
Oh
can
yeah,
change the number
that's
of lines as well. You can change the number of lines to, say, 80 or 100 instead of just having 40.
yeah, okay. Very cool. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think I've seen a lot of people in the group point this out. I always thought that they were just using the VPVR, but it looks very similar. But I like that. I'm gonna have to start using that a lot more. I think that could be a handy tool. Thanks for that.
It's nice for when you find a piece of structure that you're playing in, especially on the hourly or the 4 hour. Very handy.
Yeah. Here, let's take a look at things. Oh, look at that! Look at that hourly. Found some support right on top of that. Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, that's a cool tool. I'm gonna have to start using that way more. Thanks for that. That little lesson. Cool. Um, there was a few other things I wanted to go over here. Let me hop over to this chart here. So this was my Bitcoin cheat sheet. Things have changed a little bit for those of you who have been following my videos for a lot longer. You'll know that I've had this chart for, I think back since summer, since July or something like that. Things have changed a little bit, but again, I'm bringing up the MDX ALGO indicators here. We are starting to see some interesting bullish signals. Even though we have dropped that structure from back in June, like I said, we still do have this potential support here. We are starting to see some bullish divergences on these indicators, even on the weekly here. Even where we did set our June lows, the oscillator 4 here was trying to say a warning for a bullish pivot point there, as well as a regular bullish divergence after that level. You can see that these bands are actually starting to coil up very tightly, so I think there's going to be a volatile move fairly soon here. This could take a while to play out, I guess, because it is a weekly chart. But the fact that this is coiling up so much, I feel like there's going to be an explosive move in the coming few weeks, one way or the other. Whether that means that we just blast off and kind of retest some of this resistance up higher, or it ends up sending us and just capitulating down to that 10K level. That'll be interesting to see. The oscillator 5 also has some bullish divergences showing up. We got this R here, as well as that little house-shaped pivotal indicator there. Something else that I want to point out, for one, actually this order flow, this market flow has and could be flipping into support right now. Interesting that it's looking like the order books are starting to flip a little more bullish currently. You can see that this has actually provided quite a significant indications as to where the market is going, because I mean, back here you can see this market flow indicator did absolutely provide beautiful support on the way up, and on the way down when we ended up losing it, it ended up flipping into resistance quite nicely. Something to consider, we do have this potential bearish pivot here on the weekly. Nothing to laugh at there. But again, obviously a whole bunch of selling pressure and uncertainty came in with that whole FTX debacle and the potential domino effect that was going to have on the market. Yes, we've seen a few different exchanges kind of suffer from the wrath of that, but all in all, it wasn't as bad of a situation so far as what I was kind of expecting to come in the weeks following that FTX situation. Something else I want to point out is the RSI. I mentioned to you guys that the RSI is one other indicator that I've used quite often. Something that's been interesting in previous bear markets is our RSI actually does get this downward sloping trend line after we kind of come out of overbought conditions. We get this downward sloping trend line, and as we break that, it ends up being a bit of an early warning sign that the markets are potentially about to reverse. So that would be my purple vertical lines here would be showing where we broke out from this downtrend line. And also these green dotted vertical lines are where the weekly RSI actually went oversold. And it's marked the bottom quite well in previous bear markets. Obviously nothing has to happen again, but like when we go into our 2017 bear or 2018 bear market bottom, you can see that where the RSI got oversold on the weekly, that's where it marked a bottom as well, got that bullish divergence pivot there. And then again, we got this downward sloping trend line on the RSI. And as we broke that, again, that was an early warning sign that things were about to reverse. So if we look at the RSI currently, we went oversold, and this was back in June. That was one big reason why I thought that the bottom may actually be in. Even though we did drop a little bit, our RSI still looks pretty good. We had the similar downward sloping resistance line. You can see it even ended up flipping into support briefly. Even though we're still trading down a little bit, the RSI never got back into oversold conditions. It's still technically floating right around that support level. So the RSI actually looks pretty good from that point of view as well, which going with the market flow here, flipping into support with this potential support on the weekly back here, as well as our previous market cycle. There is some early warning signs that, you know, things might not be as bad as a lot of people are thinking right now. So, again, this is just, nothing's guaranteed, and obviously none of this is financial advice. Do your own research, your own back testing, and all that sort of stuff. But this is just one of those things where you got to look at the market and understand that you could be wrong. So even though, you know, we swept our June lows, I thought there's a good chance that we end up just capitulating down to 14K or even 10K. But that doesn't have to happen. And we're starting to see these warning signs that, you know, maybe this is just a little fake out and we are still going to go to the upside. Something I want to just bring up some potential targets just in case that does happen. Again, it's just, I just want to be prepared for anything. This is not how I am setting high leverage trades or anything like that off this chart. But something that Bitcoin has done in previous bear markets, and a level that it must break, is if I take my Fibonacci swing high to swing low of the entire bear market, and some of you guys will be familiar with where I'm going with this, but Bitcoin loves to get a harsh rejection at that 618 on a macro scale. And even though this doesn't look like a whole lot here, but this was about I think it was a 40% correction here. Yeah, 40%, so nothing to laugh at there. But look what happens when we actually end up breaking that level. So we're actually getting weekly candle bodies closes above that 618 rejection point. We came back down, we retested it pretty much perfectly, and absolutely just blasted off to the upside from there. If we go to our 2018 bear market here, do the same thing, pull Fibonacci from top to bottom of the bear market, and lo and behold, look where we got a harsh rejection there with that bear market rally I was talking about earlier. That may be where we're heading right now. But just look at that level. Again, bang on the 618 rejection point on a macro scale there. So just something that I want to bring to your attention when we start trading to the upside eventually, and whether we trade down more and then start trading up, or we just actually get a nice bear market rally now to some of these higher levels, that's something that I just want to kind of keep on my radar anyways. If I pull a Fibonacci, do the same thing from top of our bull market down to the bottom of our bear market, look how well that 618 would actually line up with this structure here as well. We have this lower high here. I think this is going to be a very important level for the market. And obviously, if we do trade lower, these Fibonacci's would change, because obviously if we drop to this 10K support, obviously, it actually doesn't change all that much, but the 618 does move a little bit. But as it stands right now, if we were to get a bounce, that's a very important level, in my opinion, that I would want to be watching. I think it makes a lot of sense that we come up towards this 28 to 32K area. That I know pretty much everybody is watching this for a harsh rejection and thinks that's where our bear market is going to continue and we're going to dump to hell from there. I personally think that if we get up to these levels, I wouldn't be too shocked to see us just kind of consolidate below it rather than actually getting a harsh rejection. If we just start tapping away at it as resistance, kind of forming structure and getting ready to punch through, basically, I think a lot of people are going to get FOMO really heavily when we get up to these levels and assume that we're just starting our next parabolic bull market. We're going to go to the moon and all that kind of nonsense. And I think this is going to be a perfect level, just a perfect storm to wreck a lot of people. Getting close to that 50K level, emotions are at an all-time high again. Everyone and their grandparents are getting bullish on Bitcoin again. I think that's a level in the market we're going to have to watch. But that being said, if we do get that harsh pullback, I think that's where, rather than seeing these levels turn into harsh resistance, I think that's more so where we're going to end up getting a rejection and finding support at this level. You can see that in previous bear markets. I kind of have this mapped out. That's what happened here on this bear market, as well as here. This one, we did get this fake out below this box again. I don't think this would have happened without COVID. I'm going to chalk this one up to a black swan event. But that's something that I'm really going to be watching for moving forward. If this market cycle is to recover, we kind of consolidate here, build a bit of structure, and then tackle this 618. I think it would make a lot of sense that we pull back, retest this old resistance as support, and once again, just kind of this level that everybody's been watching. I think that it makes a lot of sense. People would get wrecked here because everyone's FOMOing into longs, and as we drop back down to these levels, everyone's going to flip extremely bearish and say we're dropping to 10K or 6K or whatever. But I think that's a perfect setup to actually find some support there before starting our next bull market. I think that's a ways away. I'm not saying that's going to happen anytime soon. I think that's going to be more closer towards the halving. I think it makes more sense that Bitcoin, even if we do have a market bottom in, for example, I think it makes a lot of sense we just kind of trade sideways for quite a while, just ranging before actually getting our next bull market. But yeah, those are just some important levels that I wanted to map out for your guys' sake, because I know if we reclaim this blue box here, this resistance that everybody's watching, it's going to be very easy to get FOMO in that case and start buying in at stupid levels, kind of like right at where we have this structure lining up with that 618 like I was talking about. That being said, we get the similar situation like I was talking about with those previous cycles, where we actually end up getting back above this 618 and retest it as support. That's where I think our next parabolic run is going to start. Because, I mean, I showed you that first one. Same with this second one. I mean, you can see as soon as, well, we had that harsh rejection, but once we actually got a weekly candle body closing above that level, straight parabola once again. So shooting 2 for 2 on that. Not saying it has to happen again, but just something worth considering there anyways. Taking a look at the SPX, I actually haven't looked at this since last time I streamed. Interesting to see where we're at. We're obviously facing a little bit of resistance right now, so we're going to have to see. Obviously, the S&P 500 has a pretty big correlation with Bitcoin or vice versa, so something to consider there. However, that being said, we do have nice 3 touch points along this resistance here. So if we are able to get above this resistance, I think that there is a decent chance that we end up flipping this, either this downward sloping resistance line or this resistance box, to flip one of these into support. I think that things could be in a very healthy situation there. As far as the DXY, everyone in crypto absolutely loves looking at the correlation between the US dollar and Bitcoin. I actually nailed this prediction. For those of you who have been in this private Discord for months at this point, you'll know I was talking about this when we were trading right here. I said that the DXY looks absolutely parabolic. It looks like there's no end in sight. Everyone was talking about how, crypto's doomed because the DXY is just going to keep flying. It's unstoppable. This is 20 years of data. You guys know that in the Discord and on my channel, I quite often point out the 786 and 886 Fibonacci's. And I just did the same thing here for the DXY. I pulled a Fibonacci from top to bottom of this large swing. And when I say large swing, this is a monthly chart. These are all monthly candles. There's a ton of data here. So this Fibonacci is pulled from 20 years of data. So I thought there was absolutely a chance that the 886 comes into play as resistance. Not only that, but we had this upward sloping resistance channel here. This channel on its own is about 10 years of data as well. So to see the 886 line up with a third touch point along that parallel channel's resistance, as well as just the structure in here, there's obviously a little bit of resistance up in this level. So I thought that there was absolutely a good chance that the DXY ends up topping out at this level. So I'm interested to see. We are coming back down to retest some of this resistance, possibly as support. Obviously, anything can happen. The economy's a mess. Maybe the DXY does end up bouncing and just setting new highs and just going parabolic once again. But yeah, for those of you following along, this shouldn't have come as too much of a surprise. So that's another thing that's actually going in Bitcoin's favor, in my opinion. It's too bad to see that Bitcoin was hit with such bad fundamental catastrophic news there recently, because I think it would be in a much different situation just because of the inverse correlation with the DXY. But there's a lot of things going for Bitcoin right now, and yes, it is slowly bleeding a little bit and it's chopping around sideways, but I don't think it's necessarily in as bad of a situation as a lot of people are saying, is all I'm getting at. So BTC is in sleep mode price-wise. What do you think are the alt movers? Do you mean like what altcoins do I think are going to be the movers, or like a situation that is going to move the altcoin market? I personally don't follow too many altcoins. Just when I trade, I personally mainly just look at Bitcoin. Just because the way I see it, altcoins are, already leverage. Basically, if Bitcoin's doing good, altcoins are usually doing better. If Bitcoin's getting hammered, altcoins are getting hammered a lot harder. So I generally don't trade altcoins with leverage all too much, and therefore I haven't really been watching them all too closely. I personally get a little more interested in altcoins once Bitcoin does show signs that it's in an actual bull market and breaking an important structure and that kind of thing, because I like to think of the money flow cycle that people are going to move from cash. When they're feeling confident, they'll invest in something a little higher risk, like Bitcoin, for example. And then once they make profits in Bitcoin, that's when they're going to feel greedy and cocky, and they're going to diversify into higher risk things, and that's where it's going to diversify into Ethereum and then smaller cap coins from there. Just kind of looking at it from a money flow cycle. I don't really look at altcoins all too much until Bitcoin has kind of made a nice bullish move and then calmed itself a little bit. I am looking at maybe ADA and Cardano and Litecoin to start to trade. I am not a big alt trader, so don't know much about those charts. Yeah, I can take a look at some of those charts. I also haven't been looking at them too much, but we may as well take a look. Oh, it looks like maybe I should be looking at some altcoins. Yeah, it's nice to see that they are showing signs of life. The fact that we actually got, well, this is just the 4 hour, but we're starting to get candle bodies kind of closing above structure. That's good to see. Yeah, let's just zoom right out. I'm going to go look at a weekly chart here. Oh, there's not a ton of data. Oh yeah, this goes back quite a ways. Yeah, kind of the same thing as Bitcoin. Hey, like we did sweep these lows. Well, where was our June lows? Oh, that would have been back here somewhere. So again, we have that structure broken where we have set lower lows. We have obviously even respected this old support as resistance here. So, I mean, that's looking a little bit rough. But, I mean, we do have this doji weekly candle. A doji generally is indecision in the market. So, I mean, that could really go either way. I mean, it's indecisive, so it could end up being almost acting like a bear flag where we break down, or this could actually be a setup for an unexpected rally and things actually reverse there. That's interesting. Go to the hourly chart here. I'm just going to freestyle map out some stuff, see if we can find any interesting patterns, anything like that. I want to find at least 3 touch points. When I look for playing pattern breakouts and that kind of thing, I like to get at least 3 fairly decently spaced out touch points that are basically bang on. This line here, yeah, we did have this little fake out here, so that could adjust my trend line a little bit. Do have this little bit of resistance line here that was broken. So, I mean, we're going to have to see what happens here. Obviously, any chart we look at right now, there's going to be a lot of resistance up ahead. Obviously, we've just suffered and continue to suffer a pretty intense bear market. So, I mean, there's going to be a lot of overhead resistance no matter what way we look at things right now. So things are a little risky, but yeah, the altcoins might not be too bad. I mean, they are starting to at least break a little bit of structure, break out of patterns and that kind of thing. For Cardano here, for example, I wouldn't want to see a drop of that line. Quite often you'll get 3 touch points on these lines, but if we ended up getting a 3rd touch point here bouncing, and let's say some kind of a double top bearish divergence, and then end up dropping this support line, I think it could end up flipping into resistance and things could get bad pretty quickly there. FTM. I was looking at FTM the other day, actually. Whoa, that has taken quite the pump. Let's just clean things up a little bit. Let's just start from scratch. See, like, this chart actually kind of makes me more bullish on other charts, is because, again, if we go back to those June lows, I mean, this chart also had those weekly candle bodies closing below our June lows, and we never actually ended up respecting that as resistance. I mean, FTM just absolutely blasted right through, so that's one thing that's interesting, because the Bitcoin chart looks very similar to this, except the Bitcoin chart looks like, you know, it's kind of still right down at these levels. It almost looks like it's a week behind this price action. That's interesting. Let's hop over to a daily chart. Just going to try and find some resistance levels because, I mean, let's be honest, now that this altcoin has pumped over 50%, I mean, a pullback wouldn't be all too uncommon. Very clean downward sloping trend line there. This is a pattern that I'd be interested in watching, actually. Almost looks like we have a bit of a falling wedge. It could be argued that it looks like a descending triangle, but again, I like to go for exact touch points on my trend lines, so that's where, you know, we had this break down below this horizontal level, but it was more of a fake out and we came back up. So I want to draw my support line downward at an angle like that because I think there's absolutely a possibility that if we end up dropping some of these levels again, that we just get a little fake out down, get a 3rd touch point along this support before getting some momentum and breaking out of this pattern. But yeah, that's a pattern I'm definitely interested in. Obviously, once again, a lot of resistance coming up ahead. Let's just map out, let's say something like so for some pretty heavy resistance in my opinion. And again, we have this downward sloping trend line coming at the price as well. But yeah, this is a very clean resistance line. 3 nicely, fairly evenly spaced touch points. That's the kind of trend line where if it actually breaks out now, and gets a proper retest and looks like it's holding support, I would be very interested in longing the shit out of something like that. Again, when I'm playing patterns like this, patterns can be a little unpredictable, but I find I have my most success when they have these exact touch points and at least 3 of them. Let's say this one would have broke out. I totally would have expected to see some kind of rejection at this resistance here, because there was only 2 touch points on the downward sloping trend line. I would have considered it way more likely that it was a fake out, whereas now that it has this 3rd touch point and running at that resistance again, I would take a breakout far more seriously at this level on something like FTM right now. Anyways, guys, I think I actually have to leave town fairly soon, so I'm gonna wrap up the stream here. I am going to stick around, and you can keep asking questions if you want. I'm just basically gonna start uploading stuff, because it will take a while to upload this to my channel because it is a longer video. But yeah, I'm just going to wrap up the stream here. So thanks everyone so much for tuning in and being a part of it, asking questions, everything. I'm sorry I don't have the answers for absolutely everything. Like I said, I'm not on the tech support side of things, and these indicators, the updates are still fairly new to me, so I obviously haven't used them too much. But yeah, very cool stuff that we were able to go over. So thank you everybody who did tune in, and I'll see you in the group chat on the Discord anyways. And like I said, I'm gonna stick around here, but thank you everybody who did tune in. For those of you who are seeing this later from being uploaded, if you did appreciate the opportunity to kind of take a look at one of the streams, I know I was the only one on voice today, but still had input from other people. Very cool to be able to be a part of this. So do me a favor and smash that like button and subscribe to my channel if you haven't. And with that, I'm out. Stay safe, my friends. Peace.